My name is Natalie, and I just turned 32. I spent the last 3 years working as a software engineer in Europe, chasing my career dreams while still staying close with my family back home. When my mom called about a huge birthday surprise they were planning, I immediately booked a 10-hour flight despite my insane work schedule. I arrived at our family home buzzing with excitement, only to find an empty house, my birthday cake in the trash, and a sticky note on the fridge that changed everything. If you are watching this, drop a comment letting me know where you are from. And hit subscribe to find out what happened next when I discovered what was really hiding in that attic box. I always considered myself fortunate to have a close-knit family. Growing up in suburban Massachusetts, my parents Barbara and Douglas created what I thought was a warm, supportive environment for me and my younger sister Amber. We were not wealthy, but we had enough. Dad ran a small construction business that had its ups and downs, and Mom worked as an elementary school teacher. They taught us the value of hard work, education, and family loyalty above all else. I was the studious one, always with my nose in a book or tinkering with computers. By 16, I was building websites for local businesses. Amber was different. More social, more interested in appearances and status. 3 years younger than me, she seemed to resent living in my shadow, though I never saw it that way. I was just doing what I loved. After graduating with a computer science degree, I landed a good job at a tech company in Boston. I lived frugally, saving every penny I could. My parents had always emphasized financial responsibility, and I took that lesson to heart. While my colleagues splurged on fancy apartments and weekend getaways, I maintained a modest lifestyle. My dream was to own a home outright one day, free from mortgage debt. For 8 years, I saved diligently. No exotic vacations, no designer clothes, no expensive restaurants. Every bonus, tax refund, and side gig payment went straight into my savings account. By the time I turned 29, I had amassed $158,000. It represented countless overtime hours, holidays worked, and simple pleasures foregone. But it was worth it. I was getting closer to my dream. Then came the opportunity to work for a prestigious tech firm in Berlin. The salary was excellent, the experience would be invaluable, and it was only a 3-year contract. I decided to take the leap, planning to return afterward and finally buy my dream home with my savings. Despite the distance, I remained deeply connected to my family. We had weekly video calls, and I sent money home regularly. Mom had developed some health issues requiring expensive medications not fully covered by insurance. Dad claimed his business was struggling with increased competition. And Amber, who had dropped out of community college, always seemed to need help with rent or car payments. I never questioned these requests. They were my family. When Mom needed $5,000 for a new treatment, I sent it without hesitation. When Dad said he needed $7,000 to keep his business afloat, I transferred the money immediately. When Amber lost her retail job and needed 3 months of rent covered, I took care of it. Looking back, there were subtle changes in our relationship after I moved to Europe. Our video calls became shorter, with my family often claiming they were busy. Mom spoke less about her health, changing the subject when I asked for details. Dad became vague about his business situation. And Amber, who used to share every detail of her social life, became strangely secretive. I attributed these changes to the distance and time difference. I was busy too, often working 60-hour weeks to prove myself in my new role. It was easier to send money than to ask too many questions. I trusted them implicitly. They were my family. 2 weeks before my 32nd birthday, Mom called sounding more animated than she had in months. "We have been planning something big for your birthday, Natalie," she gushed. "You need to come home to see it. It is going to be so special." I hesitated. I had projects due, meetings scheduled, responsibilities I could not easily delegate. "Please, honey," Mom insisted. "The whole family will be here. We have a huge surprise that we cannot wait to share with you." When was the last time you took a real break anyway? She was right. I had not taken more than a long weekend off in over a year, and the excitement in her voice was contagious. I wanted to see what they had planned. I spent the next day rearranging my work schedule, explaining to my team that I needed a week off for a family matter. My manager Rebecca was understanding, even encouraging. "You work too hard, Natalie. Go see your family. We will manage without you." The flight from Berlin to Boston was 10 hours of mounting anticipation. What could this big surprise be? Had they planned a reunion with extended family and old friends? Was it a special trip somewhere? I allowed myself to daydream, flipping through scenarios like channels on a television. During my layover in London, I texted Mom to confirm my arrival time. Her response was brief. "Great. Door will be unlocked. We might be out when you arrive, but just make yourself at home." It seemed odd. Why would they not be there when I arrived? But I brushed it off. Perhaps they were putting final touches on whatever surprise they had planned. As the plane began its descent into Boston, I felt a flutter of excitement in my stomach. It had been over a year since I had been home. Despite my fulfilling career in Berlin, I sometimes felt the ache of homesickness, missing the familiar streets of my hometown. The comfort of my old bedroom, the easy laughter of family dinners. What I did not know then was that I was flying straight into a nightmare. That the lessons about family loyalty I had absorbed so completely would be shattered within hours of landing. That the home I was so eager to return to would never feel like home again. The taxi dropped me off in front of our family home at just past 7 in the evening. The early autumn air held a crisp chill, and the setting sun cast long shadows across the familiar lawn. Something felt immediately wrong. The driveway was empty. No cars. No lights visible through the windows. No sound of activity inside. Still, I told myself they might be out getting last-minute items for my surprise. I wheeled my suitcase up the walkway, noting with a pang that the garden Mom had always tended so carefully looked neglected, with weeds sprouting between withered flowers. I used my key to open the front door. "Hello?" I called out, stepping into the darkened entryway. No response. I flipped on the light switch and froze. The living room was nearly empty. The couch where we had spent countless family movie nights was gone. The wall that had displayed dozens of family photos was bare, with only outlines where frames had once hung. The antique coffee table that had been in the family for generations had vanished. My heartbeat accelerated as I moved through the house. The dining room table and chairs, gone. Most of the kitchen appliances, gone. My parents' bedroom furniture, gone. It was as if someone had selectively ransacked the house, leaving only the most basic items behind. I stood in the kitchen, trying to make sense of what I was seeing, when my gaze landed on the trash can. Poking out from beneath some crumpled paper was a corner of what looked like a cake box. I pulled it out and opened it. Inside was a partially eaten birthday cake with "Happy Birthday, Natalie" written in blue frosting. Several slices were missing, and the rest had been smashed, as if someone had deliberately ruined it before throwing it away. My hands were shaking now as I turned toward the refrigerator. There, stuck with a magnet shaped like the Eiffel Tower I had sent as a souvenir, was a yellow sticky note. The message, written in my sister Amber's handwriting, hit me like a physical blow. "Used your money. $158,000 for the condo. Left you some cake, but we got hungry. Surprise." I read it 3 times, unable to process what it meant. My entire savings. The money I had spent 8 years accumulating through sacrifice and discipline. The foundation of my future. Gone. I grabbed my phone and called my mother. The call went straight to voicemail. I tried my father. Same result. Then Amber. After 4 rings, her voicemail picked up. I left frantic messages for all of them, demanding explanations, asking what was happening. 10 minutes later, my phone chimed with a text message from Amber. "Thanks for the upgrade, bro. Always wanted to live in a luxury condo. You should see the pool." Attached was a photo of Amber lounging in what appeared to be a sleek, modern living room, giving a thumbs up to the camera. In the background, I could see my parents, raising wine glasses in a toast. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. I sank down onto the cold kitchen tiles, still clutching my phone. They had taken my money, all of it, and used it to buy themselves a condo. They had planned this. The big surprise was not for me, it was at my expense, literally and figuratively. With trembling fingers, I opened my banking app. The savings account that had yesterday shown a balance of $158,327.42 now showed zero. A transfer had been made to an account I did not recognize. I called my bank, but there was little they could do. The transfer had been authorized. When I explained that I had not authorized it, the customer service representative asked if anyone else had access to my account information. The truth hit me like ice water. I had given my mother my banking information years ago. In case of emergency. She was listed as an authorized user on the account, a precaution I had taken when moving overseas. She had not stolen my money in the legal sense. I had unwittingly given her the means to take it. The next hour passed in a blur as I searched the house for any clue about what had happened. In my parents' bedroom, I found receipts for new furniture, electronics, and clothing, all dated within the past week. The total expenditures ran into thousands of dollars, on top of whatever they had paid for the condo. In Amber's old room, I found a crumpled invitation. It was for a housewarming party at an address I did not recognize, scheduled for that very evening. My birthday. The invitation read, "Come celebrate our move to luxury living. Thanks to a special benefactor, the Watson family is moving up in the world." I was the special benefactor. My own family had planned a party to celebrate what they had taken from me on my birthday, while I was flying across an ocean to see them. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, that I could not even cry. A strange numbness settled over me as I wandered through the half-empty house, touching the spaces where familiar objects had been, running my fingers along the dust outlines of removed picture frames. I climbed the stairs to my old bedroom. It was largely untouched, a time capsule of my teenage years. Posters of computer pioneers on the walls. Shelves lined with science fiction novels and programming books. My old desk where I had spent countless hours coding. I lay down on my childhood bed, still in my travel clothes, and stared at the ceiling. The glow in the dark stars I had pasted there at 12 years old looked back at me, their phosphorescence faded by time. How could they do this to me? What kind of people, what kind of family, could methodically plan such a betrayal? Sleep evaded me that night. I lay awake, cycling through shock, disbelief, rage, and despair. By the time the first gray light of dawn filtered through my window, something had hardened inside me. A resolve. A determination not to be a victim. I might have lost my savings, but I still had something my family clearly lacked. Integrity. And as the sun rose, I began to form a plan. Morning brought clarity. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of instant coffee, the only provision left in the cupboards, and took stock of my situation. $158,000 gone. 8 years of sacrifices wiped out in a single transaction. My family celebrating their theft at a new condo, purchased with my money. But as I sat there, a crucial fact surfaced in my mind. The house. This house where I was sitting. It was mine. 3 years ago, when my grandmother Martha passed away, she had left the family home to me in her will. My parents had been living in it rent-free since then, with my blessing. I had never considered evicting them or selling it because it was our family home. But legally, indisputably, the property belonged to me. I called Jessica, a law school friend who had helped with the inheritance paperwork when Grandma died. "Natalie, it's been ages," she greeted me warmly. "How is Berlin treating you?" "Not great at the moment, Jessica. I'm actually back in Massachusetts, and I need legal advice." I proceeded to explain the situation. There was a long silence when I finished. I don't even have words," Jessica finally said. "I'm so sorry, Natalie. But yes, the house is absolutely yours. You can sell it if you want to. Your parents have no legal claim to it." "Can I do it quickly?" I asked. "Like, today?" "It's possible. Especially in this market. Properties in your area are selling fast. But you'll get less than market value if you rush it." "I don't care," I said, surprised by the steely quality in my voice. "I just want it done." Jessica recommended a real estate agent named Eleanor who specialized in quick sales. I called her immediately, explaining that I needed to sell the house as soon as possible due to a family emergency. Eleanor arrived within the hour, professional and efficient. She walked through the house, making notes, taking pictures, asking questions about the property history. If she noticed the strange absence of furniture or my red-rimmed eyes, she didn't comment. I want to list it 20% below market value, I told her. I need a fast sale, cash if possible. Eleanor raised her eyebrows but nodded. At that price, we will have offers within hours. Are you sure? Absolutely, I said. By noon, the house was listed. By 2 in the afternoon, Eleanor's phone was ringing constantly with interested buyers. By 4, we had 7 offers. 3 of them cash. I accepted the highest cash offer from a property developer who did not even need to see the house in person. Eleanor arranged for the paperwork to be completed electronically. By 6 that evening, less than 24 hours after discovering my family's betrayal, I had sold my childhood home. The proceeds, just over $300,000, would be wired to my account in Berlin within 3 business days. I felt a grim satisfaction as I signed the final documents. The house had been in our family for 3 generations. My parents had expected to inherit it when I eventually moved back to Berlin permanently. Now it would be torn down to make way for modern townhouses. As if on cue, my phone began to ring. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then Dad. Ignored. Then Amber, repeatedly. I silenced my phone and continued signing documents. When I finally checked my voicemail an hour later, there were 13 messages. My mother's voice, initially confused, then panicked, then tearful. Natalie, there's some mistake. There's a for sale sign in front of the house. Call me back immediately. Natalie, what are you doing? You can't sell the house. This is our home. Call me. The next message was my father, his voice tight with anger. You listen to me, young lady. Whatever game you're playing stops now. That house belongs to this family. Your grandmother would be ashamed of you. Amber's messages were the most revealing. OMG Nat, don't be such a drama queen. It was just money. We needed it more than you did. You can always make more with your fancy job. I listened to each message, feeling nothing but a cold resolve strengthening within me. When the phone rang again, I answered. How could you? Mom sobbed without preamble. We have nowhere to go. You have a condo, I replied, my voice steady. A luxury condo with a pool, from what I hear. Paid for with my life savings. That's different, she stammered. We were going to pay you back. It was just a loan. A loan requires consent, I said. You stole from me. You betrayed me. And now you get to live with the consequences. But the house, it's been in the family for generations. Yes, and Grandma left it to me, not to you. She must have had her reasons. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. You don't understand, Natalie. We needed that money. Your father is in debt. Amber needed a fresh start. We were desperate. And I needed the truth, I replied. I needed a family who wouldn't steal from me and then celebrate it. The house is sold. The papers are signed. You have 30 days to vacate. I ended the call as she began to wail. Minutes later, my father called. His approach was different, anger rather than tears. You ungrateful brat, he snarled. After everything we've done for you. This is how you repay us? By making your mother cry? By selling our home out from under us? My home, I corrected him. And I learned about ingratitude from experts. You stole my entire savings and then threw a party. It wasn't stealing. He shouted. Your family. What belongs to you belongs to all of us. That's how family works. No. That's how theft works when you try to justify it. I kept my voice level, which seemed to infuriate him further. You have 30 days to get out of my house. Any possessions left behind will be considered abandoned. You can't do this. Well, fight it in court. Good luck with that. The deed is in my name. The sale is legal. And I have documentation of your theft. Do you really want to explain to a judge how you accessed my account without permission and drained my savings? His silence told me he understood the precariousness of his position. We needed that money, he finally said, his voice lower. Your mother has medical bills. I paid those medical bills for years. Directly to the doctors. Try again. When he spoke again, his tone had changed to cajoling. Listen, Natalie, we can work this out. Families shouldn't fight like this. Come to the condo. See how nice it is. You'll have a place to stay whenever you're in town. It's for all of us. The audacity was breathtaking. No, it's for you. Paid for with my money, without my consent. Enjoy it. It cost you a house and a daughter. I hung up as he began to sputter. Amber was next, her text messages becoming increasingly frantic as she realized I was serious about the house sale. You can't do this, Nat. Where are Mom and Dad supposed to go? You are being crazy. I responded with a single text, you have a pool. They can float. My phone rang immediately. I answered and held it away from my ear as Amber screamed. You complete psycho. This is our family home. You can't just sell it because you're mad about some money. I already did. I replied when she paused for breath. It's done. Maybe you can make room for Mom and Dad in your new luxury condo. The one you thanked me for, remember? That was a joke. You were supposed to laugh. I'm not laughing, Amber. None of this is funny. You all conspired to steal my life savings, and now you're facing the consequences. It wasn't stealing. It was redistribution. She actually seemed to believe this justification. You have so much, Natalie. That fancy job in Europe, all those opportunities. What do I have? Nothing. You owe me. The entitlement in her voice was staggering. I owe you loyalty, honesty, and respect as a sister. All things you failed to give me. What I don't owe you is my life savings. You know what? Fine. She spat. Sell the stupid house. We're better off without it anyway. The condo is way nicer, and now we don't have to pretend to miss you anymore. Her words were meant to wound. But they only confirmed what I already knew. The betrayal went deeper than money. It was a fundamental breakdown of trust and love. Goodbye, Amber, I said quietly, and ended the call. I slept that night with a strange sense of peace. The initial shock had given way to action, and action had given me back a sense of control. I had lost my savings, but I had reclaimed my power. And as I drifted off to sleep in my childhood bedroom for what would likely be the last time, I had no idea that the next day would reveal an even deeper betrayal. I woke early the next morning, determined to collect my personal belongings before leaving the house for good. The new owners had agreed to a 30-day closing period, but I had no intention of staying that long. I wanted to be gone before my family could regroup and launch another emotional assault. Starting in my bedroom, I sorted through old books, mementos, and clothes I had left behind when moving to Europe. Most items held little value beyond sentiment, but I carefully packed photographs, my first computer, and journals from my teenage years. As I worked, memories surfaced unbidden. Dad teaching me to ride a bike in the driveway. Mom bandaging my knee when I fell. Amber and me building a snowman in the front yard. Had it all been a facade? Or had something changed along the way? When had my family decided I was worth more as a resource than as a daughter and sister? By midday, I had filled several boxes with items I wanted to keep. Everything else would remain with the house. I was making a final sweep of my bedroom when I remembered the attic. There were boxes of my childhood things stored there that I hadn't thought about in years. I pulled down the attic stairs and climbed up into the musty space. Dust motes danced in the beams of light streaming through the small window. The attic was crowded with forgotten items, holiday decorations, old furniture, and dozens of cardboard boxes labeled in my mother's neat handwriting. Natalie age 5 to 10, Natalie's school projects, Natalie high school. I smiled despite myself. Mom had always been meticulous about preserving childhood memories. I opened the box labeled Natalie high school, expecting to find report cards and art projects. Instead, I found a stack of official-looking documents. On top was a letter from Westfield Community College, dated 10 years ago, offering me a full scholarship that I had never known about. Beneath it was another letter, this one from a prestigious summer coding program, also offering a scholarship. I had applied to that program but had been told I was rejected. Confused, I dug deeper into the box. There were dozens of letters addressed to me that had never been given to me. College acceptances, internship offers, financial aid awards. Opportunities one had never known existed because these letters had been intercepted and hidden away. With growing unease, I moved to another corner of the attic, where boxes labeled financial and legal were stacked. I had never paid much attention to these, assuming they contained boring family paperwork. Now I opened them with trembling hands. In the first box, I found Grandma's will, the complete version, not the partial document I had been shown. As I read through it, my blood ran cold. According to the will, Grandma had left me not only the house, but also a trust fund of $350,000 to be accessed when I turned 25. I was now 32. I had never received a penny of that money, never even known it existed. Further documents revealed the ugly truth. My parents had been named trustees until I reached 25, giving them legal access to the account. Bank statements showed systematic withdrawals beginning on my 18th birthday, long before I was even aware of the inheritance. By the time I turned 25, when the money should have been transferred to me, the trust had been completely drained. They had been stealing from me for 14 years. Not just the past few days. With shaking hands, I pulled out more documents. Credit card statements showing luxury purchases made in my parents' names, funded by my trust. Vacation receipts for trips to Hawaii, Europe, and the Caribbean that they had never mentioned taking. Tuition payments for Amber's brief stint at an expensive private college. Not the community college I had been told she attended. And most damning of all, a journal. Grandma's journal. I opened it with a sense of dread, scanning the neat handwriting that filled its pages. The final entries, written just before her death, revealed her concerns about my parents' financial habits and her fears that they might try to access my inheritance. I am leaving the house and trust fund to Natalie because she is responsible and hardworking, Grandma had written. Douglas and Carolyn have proven themselves incapable of managing money wisely. I fear they will try to influence Natalie or gain access to her inheritance through manipulation. I have instructed my lawyer to speak with her directly, but I worry it won't be enough. Tears blurred my vision as I read her final message to me, never delivered. My dearest Natalie, if you are reading this, be strong. You have always been the sensible one, the one with integrity. Trust your instincts. Do not let anyone, even family, take advantage of your generous nature. Remember that true love does not take, it gives. I love you, my girl. Make your own path. I sat back on my heels, the journal clutched to my chest, as the full scope of the betrayal came into focus. This wasn't a recent decision made out of desperation. This was a long-term pattern of deception and theft, spanning more than a decade. They had systematically stolen my opportunities, my inheritance, and now my savings, all while pretending to support and love me. The discovery of a manila envelope marked college fund photos initially confused me until I opened it. Inside were dozens of photographs of my family enjoying luxury I had never known they had. Mom and Dad on a beach in Maui. Amber skiing in Aspen. The three of them posing in front of the Eiffel Tower during a European vacation I knew nothing about. Taken the same year Dad had claimed his business was failing and they needed money for mortgage payments. Another folder contained property records. In addition to our family home. My parents owned a vacation cabin in Vermont purchased 7 years ago, right around the time they had asked me to help pay for Mom's supposed medical treatments. The down payment exactly matched a large withdrawal from my trust fund. As the afternoon light began to fade, I sat surrounded by evidence of years of methodical theft and lies. Every care package I had gone without to send money home. Every vacation I had skipped to build my savings. Every sacrifice I had made for a family that had been systematically stealing from me even before I had anything to steal. The grief I felt was beyond tears. It was a fundamental reshaping of my understanding of my life and relationships. The family I had loved, trusted, and supported had been exploiting me for as long as I had been an adult. Possibly longer. By the time I packed the most damning documents into a box to take with me, a new emotion had taken root alongside the pain. Determination. They would not get away with this. They would face consequences. And I would reclaim not just my money, but my power and my truth. I called Jessica again as I carried the box downstairs. I need another favor, I told her. And this time, I need the best lawyer you know who specializes in financial fraud within families. When I finished explaining what I had found, Jessica was silent for a long moment. Natalie, she finally said, her voice gentle but firm. We're going to make this right. For the first time since stepping into the empty house 2 days ago, I felt something like hope. 3 days later, I sat in a conference room at Jessica's law firm, Blakely and Associates, waiting for my family to arrive. Beside me sat Patricia Winters, a formidable attorney specializing in financial fraud and elder abuse cases. In front of us were neatly arranged copies of bank statements, trust documents, Grandma's will, and other evidence I had discovered in the attic. I had chosen this setting deliberately. No emotional confrontations at the house or their new condo. No opportunity for them to manipulate me with tears or anger in a private setting. This would happen on neutral ground, with witnesses, and with the full weight of legal consequences hanging over the proceedings. My hands were steady as I arranged the documents one last time, but my heart raced. Despite everything, these people were my family. I had loved them for 32 years. Part of me still loved them, even as another part recoiled at their betrayal. You don't have to go through with this, Patricia said quietly, noting my expression. We could handle it without you present. I shook my head. No, I need to look them in the eyes. I need them to explain to my face why they did this. At precisely 2 o'clock, the receptionist announced their arrival. My mother entered first, her face puffy from crying, followed by my father, his expression a mask of defensive anger. Amber came last, sullen and avoiding my gaze. Natalie, Mom, began immediately, her arms outstretched. Thank God. We've been so worried. You wouldn't answer our calls. And that real estate agent wouldn't tell us anything and… Please sit down, Patricia interrupted coolly. This is a legal meeting, not a family reunion. Who are you? Dad demanded, puffing up his chest. We're here to talk to our daughter, not some stranger. Patricia Winters, attorney at law, she replied, handing each of them a business card. I represent Natalie in this matter. And these, she gestured to 2 colleagues sitting quietly in the corner, are witnesses to our proceedings today. Witnesses? Attorneys? What is this, Natalie? Mom's voice quavered. We just want to talk to you. We're beyond talking, I said, my voice calmer than I felt. Please sit down. Reluctantly, they took seats across the table. Amber immediately pulled out her phone. Put that away, Patricia said sharply. No recordings or distractions. I wasn't. Amber began, but wilted under Patricia's stern gaze and dropped the phone into her purse. We are here, I began, to address the systematic theft of my financial assets by the 3 of you, beginning with my trust fund established by Martha Watson and continuing through to the recent unauthorized transfer of my personal savings. Theft. Dad sputtered. How dare you? We're your family. Family doesn't steal from family, I replied. And that's exactly what you've done. For 14 years. What are you talking about? Mom asked, her confusion appearing genuine. 14 years? Natalie, you're not making sense. Without a word, I slid the complete copy of Grandma's will across the table. Did you think I would never find out about the trust fund? $350,000 that disappeared before I even knew it existed. Their faces told the story. Dad's flash of panic quickly masked by indignation. Mom's widening eyes and quick glance at her husband. Amber's genuine shock as she looked from the document to our parents. What trust fund? Amber asked. What is she talking about? Interesting. Amber hadn't been part of the original deception. That made sense. She would have been too young 14 years ago. Her involvement likely came later. Your grandmother had some outdated ideas about money management, Dad finally said. That trust fund was meant for the family, not just Natalie. Martha knew that. That's not what she wrote, I said, pushing the journal toward them. She specifically left it to me because she didn't trust you with money. And she was right. Mom began to cry, but the tears didn't move me. I had seen too much evidence of her deception to believe them now. We needed that money, she said between sobs. Your father's business was struggling. We had debts. We were going to pay it back before you ever knew about it. For 14 years? While taking vacations to Hawaii and Europe. While buying a vacation home in Vermont. I placed the photographs and property records on the table. You weren't desperate. You were greedy. We deserved those things. Dad suddenly shouted, his face reddening. I worked hard my whole life. Your mother raised you kids. We deserved a few luxuries. Then you should have earned them honestly, I replied. Not by stealing from your daughter and lying to her face while she sent you even more money because she thought you were struggling. Amber was unusually quiet, staring at the photos and documents with dawning comprehension. Is this why you could afford to send me to Westlake instead of community college? She finally asked our parents. You told me it was because you'd been saving for years. We had been saving, Mom said quickly. In a manner of speaking. By stealing from my trust fund, I clarified. And intercepting my scholarship offers so I wouldn't have other financial options. I slid the stack of unopened letters toward Amber. College acceptances. Scholarships. Internships. Opportunities one never knew I had because they kept them from me. Amber picked up the letters, her expression shifting as she read through them. Mom? Dad? Is this true? Did you hide these from Nat? We were protecting her, Mom insisted. Those programs would have taken her away from the family. She was needed here. You mean my income was needed here, I corrected. My money to fund your lifestyle while you pretended to struggle. That's not fair, Dad protested, but his voice had lost its conviction. Let's talk about fair, Patricia interjected, opening a folder. Let's talk about the legal implications of what you've done. Trust fund fraud. Mail fraud. By intercepting federally delivered letters. Unauthorized access to financial accounts. Identity theft, in some instances. These are serious crimes with serious consequences. You wouldn't, Mom whispered, looking at me. You wouldn't send your own parents to jail. I don't want to. I admitted. Despite everything, I don't want that. But I do want justice. What's that supposed to mean? Dad asked warily. It means you have two options, Patricia explained. Option 1. We pursue this legally. Criminal charges, civil suits, the works. You'll likely face jail time, certainly financial ruin, and your reputations will be destroyed. And option 2? Mom asked. Her voice small. Option 2. You sign a settlement agreement. You acknowledge the theft. You agree to repayment terms. You sign a confession that will be held in escrow. To be filed only if you violate the agreement. Repayment. Dad scoffed. With what money? You've already taken the house. You have a condo, purchased with my money. You have a vacation property in Vermont, purchased with my money. You have retirement accounts, investments, and possessions acquired over years of stealing from me, I listed. You'll figure it out. And if we refuse? Dad challenged. Patricia smiled thinly. Then option 1 it is. I should mention that the district attorney is a personal friend. She takes a particular interest in cases involving elder abuse and exploitation of trust. This is blackmail, Dad sputtered. No, this is consequence, I corrected him. Something you've avoided for far too long. Amber, who had been silently reading through the intercepted letters, looked up with tears in her eyes. Nat, I didn't know about any of this. I swear. I only knew about the money for the condo, and they told me you had agreed to it. Did you believe that? I asked her directly. That I would give away my entire savings without discussion, documentation, or even a conversation. She looked down. I wanted to believe it. The condo is so nice, and my apartment was so crappy, and I guess I didn't want to question it too much. At least she was honest. It was more than I could say for our parents. Here's what's going to happen, I said, pushing a document across the table. You keep the condo. I don't want it. But everything else goes toward repaying what you've stolen from me. The Vermont property will be sold. Your investment accounts will be liquidated. Mom's jewelry collection. Dad's vintage car collection, all of it. That's everything we have, Mom protested. You'll still have more than I did 3 days ago, when I discovered my entire savings was gone. I pointed out. And you'll have each other. And your freedom. Dad looked like he wanted to argue further, but something in my expression stopped him. Perhaps he finally realized the precariousness of his position. Or perhaps he simply recognized the daughter he had raised, the one who had inherited Grandma's backbone along with her property. How long do we have to decide? He finally asked. Now, Patricia said firmly. The papers are drawn up. You sign today, or we walk out of here and file charges tomorrow morning. Can we at least read through everything first? Mom asked. Patricia nodded. Of course. That's why we're here. For the next hour, my parents read through the settlement agreement, occasionally whispering to each other or asking Patricia for clarification. Amber sat silently, still processing the scope of our parents' deception. Finally, Dad put down the papers. If we sign this, what happens between us? As a family? The question caught me off guard. I had been so focused on the financial and legal aspects that I hadn't fully confronted the emotional fallout. I don't know, I answered honestly. Trust, once broken, is not easily rebuilt. I can't imagine things will ever be the same. We're still your parents, Mom said, her voice breaking. We still love you. Love doesn't steal, I replied quietly. Love doesn't lie for 14 years. Love doesn't betray. People make mistakes, she pleaded. Terrible ones sometimes. But we can learn, we can change. Maybe I conceded. But that's not what this meeting is about. This is about accountability. Sign the papers, and we can discuss the future of our relationship another time. Dad stared at me for a long moment, then picked up the pen. You drive a hard bargain. You get that from your grandmother. I take that as a compliment, I said. One by one, they signed the documents. With each signature, I felt a weight lifting. Not the pain of betrayal, not the grief of lost trust, but the burden of uncertainty. This chapter, at least, was reaching its conclusion. As Patricia gathered the signed papers, Amber caught my eye. I really am sorry, Nat. For the condo thing, at least. I should have questioned it more. Yes, you should have, I agreed. But you're signing these papers voluntarily, which is something. It's a start. As we prepared to leave, Dad made one last attempt. Natalie, you have to understand. We only wanted what was best for the family. Everything we did because we thought it was right. No, I corrected him, standing to go. You did what was easiest, what was most profitable. What fed your entitlement. Don't confuse self-interest with righteousness. It's insulting to both of us. I walked out of the conference room without looking back, knowing that while the legal battle might be resolved, the emotional wounds would take much longer to heal, if they ever did. The weeks following the confrontation unfolded in ways I hadn't anticipated. I had expected relief, a sense of justice served, but the reality was more complicated. Yes, there was vindication in having the truth acknowledged and a path to restitution established, but there was also a profound sadness that colored everything. I extended my leave from work, renting a small apartment in Boston while the legal details were finalized. Jessica helped me set up a new bank account with security measures that would prevent unauthorized access. The funds from the house sale were transferred there, providing me with a financial cushion while I waited for the additional restitution payments to begin. My family's reactions varied widely. Dad alternated between resentful compliance and desperate attempts to justify their actions. Mom called daily, her messages oscillating between tearful apologies and subtle guilt trips about tearing the family apart. Amber, surprisingly, seemed to be doing the most genuine soul-searching. I've been thinking a lot about patterns, she said during one of our cautious coffee meetings. About how I watched Mom and Dad treat money, treat you, and I just adopted it without questioning. Like it was normal to expect you to bail us out, to fund our lives. It wasn't normal, I replied. It was exploitation. I know that now, she acknowledged. I'm seeing a therapist. She's helping me understand why I went along with it, why I felt entitled to your money. I nodded, appreciating her honesty, but not yet ready to fully trust it. That's good, Amber. Self-awareness is important. They're not doing as well, she confided. Dad's furious about selling the Vermont property. Mom keeps saying everyone's abandoned her. Neither of them really gets what they did wrong. That didn't surprise me. People who could systematically deceive their daughter for 14 years had likely developed powerful defense mechanisms against confronting their own actions. The wider family fallout was messier than I had anticipated. Word spread quickly through our extended family network, with people taking sides before they even knew the full story. My mother's sisters, Aunt Rachel and Aunt Diana, stopped speaking to each other after a heated argument about the situation. Cousins I had barely spoken to in years suddenly felt entitled to share their opinions on social media. Family money should stay in the family, wrote my cousin Thomas, who had always been close to my parents. Some people are too selfish to understand that. Theft is theft, even when it's your parents doing the stealing, countered his sister Rebecca. Would you be defending them if they stole from you? I stayed out of these exchanges, but the ripple effects of my family's betrayal extended far beyond our immediate circle. Unexpectedly, support came from quarters I hadn't anticipated. My grandmother's old friend Margaret reached out after hearing about the situation. Martha was worried about exactly this. She told me over lunch at her retirement community. She saw how Douglas and Carolyn behaved with money, how they always felt entitled to more than they had earned. She tried to protect you the only way she knew how, but she feared it wouldn't be enough. I wish I had known her better, I said, feeling a new connection to the grandmother who had tried to safeguard my future. I wish I had found her journal sooner. Margaret patted my hand. She would be proud of you, Natalie. Not just for standing up for yourself, but for doing it with dignity. No histrionics, no revenge, just accountability. Her words meant more than she could know. Professional consequences emerged as well. The emotional toll made it difficult to focus on work. I had panic attacks when thinking about returning to Berlin, about being far from the legal proceedings, about trusting anyone with my financial information again. After several heart-to-heart conversations with my manager Rebecca, I decided to request a transfer to our company's Boston office. The position would be a lateral move rather than the advancement I had been on track for in Berlin, but it would allow me to stay close to the ongoing legal situation and rebuild my life on my terms. My relationship with Jesse, a software engineer I had been dating in Berlin, became another casualty of the situation. The distance, combined with my newly triggered trust issues, created an insurmountable strain. I feel like you're pushing me away, he said during our final video call. Like you're testing me, waiting for me to betray you too. I'm not, I protested, but even as I said it, I recognized the truth in his words. I had been distant, suspicious of his interest in my financial situation, questioning his motives when he offered support. I think you need time to heal, he said gently. And I respect that. But I can't be in a relationship where I'm constantly having to prove I'm not your family. The breakup hurt, but I couldn't argue with his assessment. The betrayal had fundamentally altered how I viewed relationships, how easily I trusted. It would take time to recalibrate, to distinguish between healthy caution and paralyzing suspicion. As the first restitution payment arrived, a result of the Vermont property sale, I made a decision that surprised even me. Instead of simply rebuilding my savings, I invested a portion in a tech startup founded by women. The company was developing financial literacy applications specifically targeted at young women and girls. Our goal is to eliminate the knowledge gap that keeps so many women financially vulnerable, explained the CEO, Sophia, during our meeting. To create a generation of women who understand money, who can protect themselves from exploitation, who can build security on their own terms. It felt right to transform some of the money that had been taken from me into a tool that might protect others from similar exploitation. I also began volunteering with their workshop program, sharing my story as a cautionary tale while teaching basic financial concepts to high school girls. 6 months after the confrontation, Amber called with unexpected news. I'm moving out of the condo, she said. I found an apartment I can actually afford on my own salary. What about Mom and Dad? I asked, surprised by this development. They can figure it out, she said, a new firmness in her voice. I can't keep living in a place that was bought with stolen money, pretending everything is okay. It's toxic there, Nat. They still don't really think they did anything that wrong. They talk about you like you're the villain in the story. Her words stung, but didn't shock me. And what do you think? There was a pause before she answered. I think they broke something precious, something irreplaceable. I think they're so used to justifying their actions that they can't see how much damage they've caused. And I don't want to become like that. It was the most mature I'd ever heard my sister sound. Perhaps some good could come from this situation after all, if it helped her develop a stronger moral compass than our parents had provided. The holiday season brought fresh challenges. Thanksgiving invitations came from both sides of the divided family, putting me in the uncomfortable position of having to choose sides or opt out entirely. I chose a third option, hosting a small gathering at my apartment with friends and the few family members who had shown genuine support. Amber came, as did Aunt Diana and Cousin Rebecca. We didn't discuss the situation directly, but there was an unspoken understanding, a shared commitment to building healthier relationships moving forward. My parents sent an elaborate gift basket with a card expressing their hope for healing and reunion. I donated the basket to a women's shelter and didn't respond to the card. Some wounds were still too fresh, some behaviors too unchanged for reconciliation. As my 33rd birthday approached, I decided to celebrate it on my own terms. No family drama. No painful reminders, just a new tradition built around self-care and appreciation for the supportive people in my life. I booked a weekend at a quiet bed and breakfast in Vermont. Ironically, not far from the property my parents had purchased with my stolen trust fund money. Sitting on the porch of that peaceful retreat, watching snow fall on the green mountains, I felt the first real sense of healing begin to take root. The betrayal would always be part of my story, but it didn't have to define my future. I had survived, stood my ground, and was rebuilding on a foundation of truth and self-respect. "Happy birthday to me," I whispered, raising a glass of champagne to the quiet winter landscape. It wasn't the celebration I would have imagined a year ago, but it was authentic. And after a lifetime of deception, authenticity felt like the greatest gift of all. 1 year after discovering the empty house and the devastating betrayal, I stood in the living room of my new home. It wasn't the dream house I had originally saved for, but in many ways, it was better. This modestly elegant townhouse in Cambridge represented not just 8 years of saving, but also recovery, resilience, and a new definition of security. The funds from the family house sale, combined with the restitution payments that had steadily arrived over the past year, had allowed me to purchase this place outright. No mortgage, no debt, no financial entanglements. After what I had experienced, that clean slate meant everything. "It has great light," commented my friend Zoe as she helped me arrange bookshelves. "And I love that you can walk to work from here." The Boston office of my company had become more than just a refuge during the crisis. I had thrived there, bringing fresh perspectives from my European experience and eventually earning a promotion to development team leader. The work was challenging and fulfilling, a welcome constant during a year of emotional upheaval. "The housewarming party is going to be perfect," Zoe continued, arranging photographs on a shelf. She paused, holding a frame. "Are you sure you want this one displayed?" It was an old photo of my family from before the betrayal, before I knew the truth. Mom, Dad, Amber, and me at a 4th of July picnic, smiling into the camera. "Yes," I said after a moment. "That part of my life happened." Pretending it won't help me move forward. Moving forward had been a complex process, filled with therapy sessions, legal meetings, and difficult personal reckonings. I had learned to distinguish between forgiveness and reconciliation, between acknowledging the past and being defined by it. My relationship with Amber had evolved in unexpected ways. After moving out of the condo, she had thrown herself into building an independent life. She got a job as an administrative assistant at a marketing firm, enrolled in night classes to finish her degree, and began the hard work of examining the entitled mindset our parents had fostered. "I keep thinking about what I would have done with that trust fund money if I had known about it," she confided during one of our monthly dinners. "And honestly, I probably would have wasted it. They raised us with such weird ideas about money. Like it was this magical resource that would always appear somehow, not something you earn and manage responsibly." That's self-awareness, I acknowledged, impressed by her growth. Not everyone could look at themselves that honestly. Our parents, unfortunately, remained largely unchanged. The restitution payments came on schedule, likely because they feared the legal consequences of default rather than from any genuine remorse. Their attempts at reconciliation followed a predictable pattern. Initial apologies quickly giving way to justifications, then to subtle blame shifting. We only wanted to protect you from making mistakes with that money. Mom insisted during one of my rare phone conversations with her. You were so young when Martha set up that trust fund. We were trying to be responsible parents. By spending it on vacations and luxury items? I challenged. By hiding scholarship opportunities from me? That wasn't protection, Mom. That was theft and control. She had no answer for that. Just tears and complaints about how hard the past year had been for them. I had learned to end these conversations before they devolved further, preserving what little peace I had managed to establish. The startup I had invested in, Future Funds, was gaining traction in the educational technology sector. Their financial literacy app for young women had been adopted by several school districts, and I occasionally spoke at their workshops, sharing a carefully edited version of my experience to illustrate the importance of financial independence. Your story resonates so deeply with our students, Sophia, the CEO, told me after one such session. Especially the part about rebuilding. It's not just about avoiding financial pitfalls, it's about knowing you can recover from them. Recovery had indeed been the theme of the year. In honor of my grandmother, whose foresight had eventually helped me discover the truth, I established the Martha Watson Scholarship for young women pursuing computer science degrees. The first recipient, a brilliant high school senior named Tanya with circumstances similar to my own, had recently accepted admission to MIT. Your grandmother would be so proud, Margaret told me when I shared the news over our monthly lunch. Now in her 80s, she had become an important link to the grandmother I wished I had known better. Martha always believed in using privilege to create opportunity for others. My personal life had begun to blossom again too, albeit cautiously. After the breakup with Jesse, I had taken a deliberate break from dating, focusing instead on strengthening friendships and rebuilding my sense of trust. When I eventually met Daniel, an architectural engineer, at a friend's dinner party, I was finally ready to open up again, slowly and with careful boundaries. I appreciate your honesty about your trust issues, he said after I shared a simplified version of my family situation on our third date. Take all the time you need. Good things are worth waiting for. His patience and respect for my boundaries were refreshing, allowing a relationship to develop at a pace that felt secure rather than overwhelming. 6 months in, it was still new, still careful, but filled with genuine potential. The most profound change, however, was internal. Therapy had helped me recognize patterns I had never seen before. The subtle ways my family had conditioned me to prioritize their needs above my own, to measure my worth by what I could provide rather than who I was. You were the family caretaker from a young age, my therapist Lisa observed. That role became so embedded in your identity that you couldn't see how abnormal their expectations were. Recognizing those patterns had allowed me to begin dismantling them, to build healthier boundaries not just with my family, but in all my relationships. I had learned to say no without guilt, to prioritize my well-being without apology, to trust my instincts when something felt wrong. On the anniversary of the day I had found the empty house, I decided to hold a special dinner at my new home, not to commemorate the betrayal, but to celebrate the strength I had found in its aftermath. Around my table sat the people who had supported me through the darkest year of my life, the chosen family who had demonstrated what real love looked like. Jessica, whose legal expertise had been matched only by her friendship. Zoe, who had opened her home to me when I needed a safe place to land. Margaret, who had shared precious memories of my grandmother. Amber, still on her own journey of growth and accountability. And Daniel, representing the possibility of new beginnings. I want to propose a toast, I said, raising my glass as we finished dinner. Not to the past, but to the future we build from it. To lessons learned, boundaries established, and authentic connections cherished. As glasses clinked and warm smiles were exchanged, I felt a sense of completion. The circle that had been broken by betrayal had been reformed into something new, something stronger, because it was built on truth rather than illusion. Later that evening, after my guests had departed, I sat alone in my new living room, contemplating the journey of the past year. The pain had not disappeared entirely, perhaps it never would. but it had transformed into something constructive, a foundation for wisdom rather than a source of ongoing suffering. I thought of the hundreds of young women who would benefit from the financial literacy programs I now supported, of the scholarship recipients who would pursue education without the burden of debt, of the boundaries I had learned to establish in all my relationships. From the darkest betrayal had come unexpected light, illuminating a path forward I could never have anticipated. As I prepared for bed, my phone chimed with a text from Amber. "Just wanted to say again how much tonight meant to me. I'm so proud of who you've become, Nat. Thanks for showing me it's possible to rebuild." I smiled as I typed my response. "We rebuild together, one brick at a time. Sleep well, sis." The relationship with my sister was still healing, still cautious, but it was perhaps the most meaningful restoration of the past year. Unlike our parents, she had chosen accountability, had done the difficult work of examining her role in the betrayal and making amends not just with words, but with actions. Climbing into bed, I thought about how differently this story could have ended. If I had accepted my family's manipulation, if I had not found the courage to confront them, if I had chosen bitter revenge rather than principled justice. The betrayal had been their choice, but the response had been mine. And that response had shaped the person I was becoming. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new choices. But for tonight, I could rest in the knowledge that I had not just survived my family's betrayal. I had transformed it into a catalyst for growth. The money they had stolen could be replaced. The trust they had broken might never fully heal. But the strength I had discovered in myself was priceless and permanent. I had learned that sometimes the strongest foundations are built after everything falls apart. That family can be chosen as well as born. That boundaries are not walls, but necessary structures for healthy love. That integrity, once tested, becomes unshakable. Have you ever had to rebuild your life after a betrayal? What helped you find your strength again? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this journey resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and renewal. Remember, even in our darkest moments, we are never as alone as we feel. Thank you for being part of my healing journey. And I wish you strength in whatever challenges you might be facing. Sometimes the most beautiful new beginnings rise from the ashes of what we thought we could not survive.